In our last video, we looked at a general overview of the AgGuide guidance screen with auto boom switching. In this video, I'm going to give a demonstration of how to set up AgGuide from a new setup. I'll be going through vehicle setup, implement setup, farm and field setup, job setup, and GPS setup. So now we need to set up the vehicle. So to go into the vehicle setup, we go into menu, vehicle, and select. Here in the vehicle selection page, we have the ability to store as many different vehicles as you like. So you might have a U to red, a green, or blue tractor, for instance. You can list them here with each individual setups. So we have a default vehicle here. We'll go into edit, and we might have a blue tractor as our main spraying unit. We can hit accept. We can change the color of the icon on the screen, and we might change it to blue to match. And we can also change the way the icon is displayed on the screen, so vehicle 3D, 2D, or triangle crosshair. We'll choose 2D for the example. The other items here are not used during visual guidance. Next tab up the top is the measurements tab. Now it's important to get your characteristics of the vehicle correct, because this will help with the auto boom switching, knowing when to turn on and off correctly, and also how the coverage is displayed on the screen with your guidance lines. So here we have a drop down box of some predefined front wheel, tracked, rear and articulated, and also to the right here is the descriptions of where you need to be measuring. As you drop each box down, it'll obviously change what you need to measure. It's important that you do get your GPS antenna position correct. Here's the descriptions there to make sure you get them right. The next tab up the top is the auto steer. Now, because we use auto boom switching, although you can have auto steer with auto boom, we'll just for the demonstration use none and visual for today. And once that's set up, your vehicle is now complete. Next, we're going to set up the implement. So what I'll do, I'll give a brief overview of setting up the implement as a simple spray controller with 3 sections. So like before, we go to menu, and this time we go to implement and select. As in the vehicle setup, we can add as many implements as required. So you might have a sprayer setup, a seeder setup, planter setup, etc. So what we'll do, we'll edit the default implement. We click on edit, and we can name our implement. So what we'll do, we'll call this sprayer, and it's going to be 16 meters, and we'll press accept. Now our control mode, because we're using auto boom switching, we can choose the spray guide with ABS. And then you can see up the top here we get some more tabs to set up. So next we go up to the measurements tab, and here in the measurements tab is where we set up our implement characteristics. So we can choose rigid front, drawbar, articulated. For the demo, we'll just use a drawbar with 1 pivot point, and here you can see whether you want like an overlap. So if you prefer to have a little bit of overlap rather than underlap when it comes to GPS, and then here the drawbar length, and as you can see on the right hand side, it tells you what you need to be measuring. Next we can select on the section width. So when we hit on edit section widths, we get the number of section widths. So here you can either add or delete section widths, but in our case we will just delete 1 section width, and we can edit each of those. So we'll go 6 for section 1, and section 2 will be we'll do 6, and perhaps on section 3 we'll do it as 4 meters, so we get our 16 meter boom. The next tab up the top we have is control. So here is where we set up the valve bank options that you have for your sprayer. So we have our section valve type, which is either in normal or bypass, and that refers to how the sprayer is plumbed. Normally a spray manufacturer can advise which way that's set up. The look ahead on and off times. These are settings for the auto boom switching, so it knows how to turn the boom on when it's ready to do auto booming, and when you go over already sprayed area, how often to turn it off. And that's done in seconds there, and sometimes it's trial and error to get it right, depending on the speed that you're actually traveling. Flow control response, this is how long it takes for your main control valve to open and close. So this is a 6-second response time. And then our flow sensor calibration. So this is how many pulses per litre your flow meter is outputting to get your applied rate. Next we have the pressure tab. So the pressure tab is when you have a digital pressure sensor on your valve bank. So if this is enabled like this, we have a high and low alarm that can be set. So depending on your pressure that you're spraying at and your speed and what the rate you're trying to achieve is how you can set up your pressure alarms to notify you of any drop in pressure or any high pressure notifications. We also have a pressure offset. Now the offset can be used if you have a manual pressure gauge, and you might find that the difference between the manual gauge and the digital gauge is perhaps 10 kPa. You can do a pressure offset either in positive, or there is a minus function there where it'll actually put it the other way around. The next tab we have is the line 2 mode. Now on a normal for example 3 or a 5 section spray controller, the line mode is single line, so therefore we just have one row of valve banks and one single line with multiple nozzles coming off that one line. So line mode single will be fine as a default. The next tab we have is the speed tab. So here we can tell AgGuide to shut off speed when it gets to say 0.5 kilometre, or you can adjust it to perhaps 5 kilometres you'd like the sprayer to shut off. We also have a slow hold mode. Now the slow hold mode means that when your sprayer gets to a certain speed or pressure, whether you've got a pressure sensor installed or not, you can allow AgGuide to go on hold. So if you've got a dump valve installed, this will return the liquid to tank and just keep circulating until you take off again at your required speed, and then your spray nozzles come back on. So here we've got our slow hold point. We can change that to say that perhaps when it gets to 10 kilometers an hour, it will go into slow hold mode. Monitor will go on hold. It'll stop spraying, and then when you take off over that 10 kilometers again, your monitor will start into auto boom section mode again. The last tab we have is the bins and tanks. So here we can set up a default rate and capacity for the implement itself. You can also have multiple bins and tanks depending on your setup. By adding a new tank, you can see it adds a bin 2 here. However, we'll do one bin or tank. So here we have a default rate that AgGuide will use. In this instance, we'll say use 300 litres per hectare as our default application rate. We can also change the rate in steps. So if we'd like to up that rate at 10 at a time or 5 at a time, instead of using it in increments of 1, we can change the incremental level by either 5 or 10. So we'll just say I'd like to have my steps at 10, so it'll go up at say 310, 320, etc. Now we also have a scale, a minimum and maximum scale. What this does is it will show you a coloured applied map on the screen as you drive along. So I'm saying I just would like to know my rates between say 200 litres and 300, and it will draw that in a coloured format on the screen. There is also a rate alarm here, so it can tell me that when it gets to within, say, let's go 15 litres either side of the 300, it'll tell me so I can identify if there's any problems down my line. We also have the tank capacity here, so we can set up the tank capacity. So you might have a 3,000 litre tank, for example. We can go accept, it's in litres, and once it's filled, we can go fill. And we also have the alert level, so it'll tell us if it's getting empty within 25% of the 3,000 litres. Underneath we have the products. So here you can add your products that are your product mix to your tank. So whatever you happen to be doing for the day, there's a product mix. So we might be doing, I'll just do one example. We might be doing Roundup today. And we're going to fill the tank up with 100 litres of Roundup. We can choose litres. Here we've got the option to have the supplier, batch, manufacturing date, depending on your country's requirements, and also what the typical application rate of that will be. So I just might point one of a litre here, and as you can see, it's put it down the bottom as in our product rates. We can add more if we like. You can add, edit them, as a tank mix. Now that the implement's been set up, we can hit accept down the bottom and menu back. And now what we see is, like in the first example, our guidance screen with spray control. So we'll just hide this menu away. As you can see here, we've got our 3 sections that we've set up. We've got our what we're doing here today in litres per hectare. We've also got our main menu. So here's our 300 litres per hectare default as we set. And also when we press on the up and downs, you can see we've put our steps in, and we've also got a pressure sensor enabled. So that's how we set up the implement and what your guidance screen will look like.